There we go. All right. Welcome, everybody. So, usually, if you've been on these before, you see Kate's beautiful face. She's out today. So, it's my ugly face here to introduce the wonderful Allie Frye. She's been our mortgage partner, like basically since the beginning. So, she's been here forever. She's part of the family. We're excited to talk about whatever is happening and answer whatever questions you guys have. So, if you guys want, you can turn on your cameras. We can make it friendly, just like the weekend wrap ups. We won't judge your hair or makeup. Or like me, my hair is getting really long, which you guys probably think it's short. Um, but people that see me every day are like, "Oh my gosh, why is your hair so long?" So I need to fix that too. But anyway, glad you guys could hop on today. If you have questions, please chime in. Allie, I'm sure you'll go over a couple things, but if you guys have questions, situations, concepts, thoughts, whatever, this is a good place to unpack all of that in kind of a small group environment. So, with that, Allie, I guess you can take it away. And if anybody has questions, put it in the chat. I'll keep an eye on that, um, or raise your hand and we'll get to you.
Perfect. I see some new faces and names, so I'm glad you guys are here and definitely chime in and have a conversation. But I'm going to go through some slides, maybe to start some conversations, and we'll go from there. But really, I just like to jump on every month to kind of go over some ways you guys can get people off the fence to buy to help some of your listings and um, just to go through some rates since they're always all over the place these days. So for today, I wanted to kind of just more or less talk about the partnership and the teamwork for when you do have a buyer out there and just making sure that everybody is on the same page as far as communicating. It'll only help your buyer feel confident about putting in an offer. And there's been so many different like scenarios that work out for not only your buyer but the seller to accept the offer that we all kind of come together and figure out. And that's one of the things that I kind of preach to the buyer at on my pre-approval consultation, that we're all a team, we're all going to get to the finish line, and we're all going to make it as smooth and as, you know, payment friendly as you want or whatever. There's so many different ways that we can get the buyer to feel more confident. The payments are obviously everybody's like number one priority, right? So making sure that we know what home you're looking at, what the feedback is from the buyer, and making that specific scenario for that property and making them feel good about what they're going to offer and the payment that they're going to, have to pay every month. So sometimes that looks like kind of negotiating with the seller to maybe get a seller credit, and then that way we can buy the rate down and then make the payment less. If you have, a good conversation with the listing agent and kind of figure out where that seller needs to come in for like their net proceeds to make this offer work, then we can work backwards from that and figure out maybe we can go up 5,000 on the list price and ask for 5,000 for a seller credit just to make the buyer more in a better position for their payment, and then keeps the seller, netting the same. Um, Obviously, when you're going up in price, you want to consider, the comps and if it's going to appraise and all of that. With that said, too, we have been getting a lot of appraisal waivers. What that means is that we wouldn't require an appraisal. Conventional Fannie and Freddie is really the only place you can get that. If you're going FHA or VA, USDA, then they'll always require an appraisal. But for conventional lending, we've getting so many, even ones that are only putting like 10% down. So it used to be, you have to put at least 20%. It has to, it looks at all of the whole big picture, like how much assets the borrower has. And then the biggest thing is like if there's been an appraisal in the last like 7 years. So a lot of times I can look at the borrower's big picture, and if the home sold, 5 years ago, it's very possible we could get an appraisal waiver. Now, we're not going to know for sure until we put the specific property address in our system and run it through. But if that is something that could be done to win the deal, then we can run that through and kind of see where that lands.
So how quickly, if like you say, run it through your system, if the buyer has like legitimately gotten pre-approved, like they have sent you all the documents, you verified whatever, like all you're waiting on is a property. So then if you get that property, how long until you find out if there's going to be an appraisal waiver? Like before
I
they make an offer?
Yeah, we can. We don't like to because then we have to like withdraw the application and start all over again if they don't
You have
get
to
it.
submit the application. Okay.
But yeah, if you guys are in the point where you're like negotiating back and forth and like the, for whatever reason, an appraisal waiver could win the deal, whether it's like timing or just the seller in general, or you guys in general, like worrying about comps and that sort of thing. We can certainly run it through and see.
Well, I'm
Um,
just envisioning like a multiple offer situation where it's really competitive and you want to be able to go in and say, look, there are no question marks. We literally already have the application in with
mhm,
this property,
mhm.
and we've gotten an appraisal waiver. Like we're already halfway to the finish line here, and we don't even have an accepted contract. I think that's a really strong position to
Yeah.
be in if it's a competitive situation. And then worst case, they don't get it, and you have to withdraw the
Yeah.
application. But okay, that's cool.
Yeah, multiple offers definitely for sure. And then I mean we can close a loan in 2 or 3 weeks with an appraisal, but just to alleviate that stress on relying on a third party is so key. Um, and then that saves the borrower some money too. So that always makes them happy.
All right, I have a totally unrelated question. Well, although
Yep.
it is related to appraisals. So
Okay.
I can either let you, well, you're going, what is that, interest rates or payments? Do you want to talk about that first or ask this question?
Go ahead. Ask a question.
Well, and this may be something you have to kick the can down the road on, and I don't know how prepared you would be to speak on it, but that is that I've heard there are changes coming to appraisals with properties that have ADUs. Something about I just literally heard this yesterday in the Door 5 board meeting that like they're saying it could take 30 to 45 days to get appraisals back on properties that have ADUs because there's like a new process or a new form or a new something that appraisers have to do with those properties. Because now like the AD, if there's detached square footage, they have to like, I don't know, basically do like a whole nother appraisal like on that part of the property or something along those lines. So that's why I say this may be a tease for a future discussion because from what I understand, it's kind of like new and it goes into like it's required maybe in November or sometime this fall that appraisers uh, do that or that lenders require that process. But anyway, just throwing that out there
Yeah,
in
no, I
case.
can get you a lot more details after the call, and maybe you can send it out with the recording. There's definitely changes with that. And then there's changes with the whole appraisal form in general too that they're implementing. Some people are already using it, but yeah, I can definitely send over some information and then you can send it out.
Cool.
Yep.
Yeah, that seems like something we'll, as it gets closer to being
Hmm.
like required, especially if it's going to impact a property in terms of the timeline.
Yeah.
That'll be important. So.
And there's a
Um,
lot of people that have those ADUs and that are building them.
yeah, right. Because that was I guess it's all attached to this like new legislation about municipalities are supposed to allow ADUs on every property, where it would otherwise fit with the HOA and
Hmm.
the, whatever other rules might exist. The state has said municipalities need to be allowing those. So, just out of curiosity, what are we seeing for like appraisal timelines right now? I mean, is it anything to be super
No,
aware
it's
of, or
really
like,
typical. I mean, we always say 7 to 10 business days, and we always get them back before then. There's been some like VA appraisals that come back a little bit longer, and that's always typical, especially since they have to do like their secondary review and everything. Um, and just rural properties in general sometimes come back slower than others.
cool? All right, thanks.
Yeah. So to kind of give you kind of more of an example, as far as these seller credits that I referred to, that um, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I know the last several transact or contracts I've gotten in have had them already negotiated right off the bat, and that can range from. I mean, I think the average is kind of like $5,000, but we've certainly seen higher. And if it's not right on the contract because the buyer is strategically trying to buy the rate down immediately, we're certainly seeing them after the fact. In fact, two came in this last week after, and we went ahead and adjusted the rate down because of that. So as you can kind of see, the payment difference, the savings is can be significant to a buyer. Even $30 doesn't seem like a lot, but it really could make a big difference in a buyer and getting them off the fence.
Is this a permanent buy down?
Hmm.
And are we seeing much in the way of like the temporary buy downs anymore?
Some people kind of still talk about them and want to see them, but a lot of people are so adamant about, I don't want anything temporary. I want to know that if rates stay the same as they're predicted to be, or, still in the sixes at least, that they would much rather be, paying for a permanent buy down and not worry about a year or two and going up.
And so I'm just doing like back of the napkin math here. And so if you save $200 and it costs you 12,000, that's $2,400 a year. So you're looking at like what, roughly a 5-year break even?
Yeah, it's typically going to end up being about 5 years, pretty average break even. So the
What was a year? Sorry,
mindset,
my phone, my like the sound broke out for me. It's what's a typical break even?
5 years.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it usually is about 60 months. So the mindset is just kind of changed where they're saying the buyer is saying, well, it's the seller paying for it, so the break even time to me doesn't necessarily matter as much, and it's just basically using somebody else's money to get their payment down. Whereas if you're coming out of pocket with $5,000, then that's when they're focusing more on like, how long do I have to keep this mortgage or house?
Finances are so complicated because I look at it and say, well, that 12,000 could go towards my other closing costs, which is money out of pocket. So I look at it and say,
Mhm.
well, I could take that 12,000, put it in a savings account today, earn 3% on it. And like now that complicates the math more and makes me want to pull what little hair I have left out.
Yeah,
So
and people are like you, just exactly like that. And so I always are like, I'm always like sending them like breakdowns of like spreadsheets and being like, and everybody's different. So a lot of people are like, I want to like bring to the table hardly anything if possible as far as closing costs, and then they go that route. Other people are like, I'm paying my payment and I just want to have the lowest payment possible. And nobody's right or wrong, I think, at the end of the day. It's just what makes the most sense for that person to move
I
forward.
mean, I'm sitting here thinking too, like you could take this scenario and throw it into, I'll plug our AI, right? Choice
Mhm.
AI, and say, okay, I can put $12,000 as a seller credit towards a buy down, or I can take that money, keep it in pocket, put it into a savings account at 3%. What is my break even on all that? What's the best option given all the other things about me, my sensitivity to payment or available cash reserves or whatever, like break down all the different options and show me, the savings.
Yeah, I
And
do that often.
yeah, that's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
and
mean, I love, go ahead.
it 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 really does depend on each person and also what they think the future holds too. Like maybe people know right off the bat this is only going to be, a 2-year plan and I'm going to move on to the next house. And other people are adamant that it's going to be their forever house. So it really depends on that too.
Yeah. Yeah. Predicting the future.
Yeah, crystal balls. Um, but yeah, I mean, if this helps get a buyer off the fence and or confidently cement the offer, then you're winning. So suggesting this, making it your idea to your buyer, to ask me for different scenarios. I'm going to bring it up in our pre-approval, meeting that I always have. Um, and that's a Zoom call, and I always say that agents are always welcome. So even if you just wanted to jump on and like hear what I was saying, then that's always a good thing. And again, it just shows that we're all on the same team. Um, any questions on those seller credits before I move on? Okay. So rates today, right now, and if you haven't heard me preach this, Mortgage News Daily is my go-to, and I do feel like it's the most up-to-date data. So it's going to be the best case scenario. It's going to be nationwide, so it's never going to be exactly what your buyer is going to get, but it gives them the best idea, as far as where rates are. So today 6.68, or I guess technically yesterday, since rates are probably coming out right about now. Um, and then since we didn't get on last month, this is just a 2-month period of where they are. So as I said earlier, they've been all over the place, and um, the biggest reason for that is obviously the war. So that's playing a big part in where rates are and why they're up. So, if and when that ends anytime soon, then we all expect them to come back down closer to the lower sixes. Um, so another kind of piece about where rates are and time frame is if you have a buyer that was pre-approved, a couple months ago, it could be significantly different from where they're at now, and that could play a big role in if they qualify or not too, or even if they qualify, if they want that increased payment amount, or maybe we do need to kind of reevaluate a seller credit or a different price point or whatever. So, big reason to reach out to anybody that kind of has been sitting there for a while in your pipeline and you haven't really talked about, an updated pre-approval. Um, it's really important to make sure you are all on the same page before you find a, house that they want to put an offer on. Um, the rates in general, like I said, I do kind of show the borrowers that on my pre-approval call and the chart and everything like that. So kind of just coaching them on what they are, where to find the most accurate data, not going to like TikTok and, listening to people that maybe aren't on the right track, is really important, and just giving them that like real life education. It seems to be very valuable and just kind of, again, going back to the whole confidence thing. So, just encouraging them to kind of talk to a lender about where rates are and how that affects them, I think is a huge push to, help you guys out in the long run.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I look at that I talk about when I send out my monthly market update video, and you have to wait till the end of it to get there, but is the housing affordability. Because I mean, rates are one thing, but um, how affordable is housing, and that is the most important thing, right? And so, obviously, it's different for everybody, but affordability has been improving like dramatically over the last 6+ months, for all kinds of reasons, and rates is just one part of that. And so, if people
Mhm.
just stick on rates, it's like it doesn't really tell you the whole picture of how your mortgage fits into your entire life. I mean, what has happened to your income over the
Mhm.
last year, what has happened to prices of things you pay for over the last year, and what has happened to housing prices, like what can you get for your money compared to what you could have gotten 5 years ago, or 3 years ago. So all that stuff matters, but I mean, we are certainly on a trajectory back closer to like a 100 for housing affordability, which is much better than like the 70 that we were at for like
Yeah,
3 years. So
that's great.
yeah, I mean, so just trying to have those, we don't have to be economists, but just understanding that rates is just one piece of the picture there. And if nobody should be gravitating only on that when they're high or low, because if rates are low, they're paying this massive premium for housing, well, then it still may not be the right time. And just because
Yeah.
they're higher doesn't mean it's automatically not the right time because the rates are higher. And I think it's hard for agents to understand that, and it's even harder for consumers to understand it.
Yeah, and just like asking questions and being curious, instead of kind of telling people things too, will help you understand like how to navigate that conversation.
Great
I
advice.
learned the hard way that way.
Yeah, you don't know
Um,
what's important to them until you ask what's important
yeah,
to them.
exactly. Because like I said, everybody's priority is a little bit different, so you just never know. Um, Again, like the power of connection, I'm always preaching and just making everybody on the same page. Having that warm introduction to me, via email or a text. And then that way it's more of a good handoff. And then, I always jump on a call with them initially and just kind of go over some of that like broad, goals and kind of figure out what their priority is and that sort of thing, and kind of give them an overview of what to expect on the next step, which is filling out that online application. I feel like a lot of lenders skip over that and just send over an application link, and then there's just always this disconnect. And it doesn't, some people don't even get off the fence because they don't want to just throw in all of this information to somebody that they haven't even had a conversation with. So really making that warm introduction to make sure that they um, are feeling good about the whole stressful, transaction of buying a house.
I wish there was like a sample application process that agents could go through like once a year to be reminded of what it's like to buy a home and have to provide all this information. And just, I think having the understanding and like the empathy for that is important, to help be there in the trenches with your buyers.
Yeah, we get so used to it. And even just like, writing up an offer, we're just like, oh, yeah, it's no big deal. But it's like, it is a huge big deal for these people. So obviously, we want to be like, gentle about it in a way.
I mean, I remember the last time I bought a house and I had to wire the money, the down payment to the attorney. And like I sit here, for so long, it's, oh yeah, you just do this and it's no big deal. And oh my God, I was so anxious until I got confirmation that that money was received by the attorney. And so that was a good reminder that it's easy for us to just spit out instructions, and it's different to be the person doing it.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's a big reason why I do like to hold hands, even if you've bought 10 houses, because every time it's a little different and they like kind of need that like reminder of, okay, this is the next step. And you'll get the wiring instructions from the attorney because I don't know how many people ask me for the wiring instructions and that sort of thing. So every single step of the way, there's always something. And um making sure that they have those expectations met and they're aware of everything. Over educating them will only make them come back to you in the future and send their friends and family to you. So, and that's the goal, right? Is to make sure that the experience is great, and then they'll send all their friends to you.
Absolutely. All right. Any questions about stuff any of you have going on that you want to throw out there? I'm going to give a moment for everybody to scramble and find their unmute button all at once. No, just kidding. All right, cool. Anything else then you want to add, Allie?
That's all I got. So obviously let me know if you have any questions, and if you're watching this recording, definitely reach out, and hopefully we'll do a deal together soon.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you. And thank you, everybody. We'll get the recording out later. See ya.
Bye.